What was the dumbest but legitimate excuse you said when you were late for schoolwork? I was zipping along on the interstate when I saw smashed cardboard box up ahead. A box of nails had fallen off a truck and there were nails scattered everywhere. Of course, I ran over them. This was in the days before mobile phones, so I got off the highway, found the first gas station with a mechanic, and asked him to plug the holes in my tires. Fortunately, the nails themselves stayed in and kept the air from leaking out long enough for me to get to the gas station. He ended up plugging about 15 holes. I called the boss and told him I'd be late and he said, "Bring the receipt from the garage for the repair work." I got to work about 90 minutes late and showed him the receipt, which was handwritten. Mother still inspected all the tires on my car, making sure they had new plugs in the holes. Then he said, "Get to work. You're 90 minutes behind." That's the kind of boss whose employees only do enough work to not get in trouble and nothing more. Me. Boss, I'm going to be late. There's like 3 cars on fire on the highway. Boss, dude, I was just on the highway 15 minutes ago. There's no burning cars. Me. Sends him a pic of the burning cars and paramedic. Boss, when the frick did that happen? Me. I guess less than 15 minutes ago. It's so exhausting for me when people don't just take my word for stuff. Like I don't lie, but so many people do that I have to deal with people thinking I lie too. I lived on a houseboat 11 or 12 years ago and there was a pretty good storm and the water rose high enough that the gangplank came off the dock so we couldn't leave. My boss thought I was making it up until I showed him the pictures the next day. There was several geese around my motorbike and refusing to let me on it. I ring my boss and they didn't believe it until I came in with photos of hell's geese hissing at me because it was their bike now. I hate geese. They scare me. Geese are the worst. We have a lake near my work and they just do whatever they want. Someone couldn't leave one day, just like you almost, because there was a goose above their driver's side door and wouldn't get off. My old manager was attacked by one and created a hilarious geese safety PowerPoint. Geese are freaking dongs. My printer caught fire. Final paper due at exactly 11 AM. I submitted it electronically before the deadline and showed up at 11:15 rather out of breath and was told it was too late. Professor said I'd get a 0. I showed her the burnt paper and a picture of my burnt up printer sitting on the sidewalk I took with my phone. Got an exception and was allowed to submit. Must have been a Sabre printer. My dad once threw some monkey bread outside. It was winter. It froze solid overnight. I tripped and rolled my ankle on the way out the door because a fricking squirrel or something had picked it up and booby-trapped our porch. Because a fricking squirrel or something had picked it up and booby-trapped our porch. Probably a monkey, seeing as you made bread out of one of its brethren. The bull got out and was hit by a gravel truck. I live in rural suburbs near a major TX city. Think farmland being turned into subdivisions. This bull had a habit of getting out of his part of the field. Probably the most Texan reason to be late ever. A guy I worked with called in and said his horse died. The next day he called in and said he had to bury it. Someone burned my parents' car. I don't remember if the teacher believed me, but someone had really stolen my parents' car, drove it until the fuel tank was empty, and burned it in a field. If they actually used gasoline as the accelerant to burn it, that makes the story even more ridiculous. A house was in my way, was behind a truck moving a modular home that had some sort of issue and was stopped. Obviously, if a car breaks down in front of you, you can usually just drive around it, but this took up pretty much the whole road. A cop had to direct traffic around it, was only 15 minutes late, so it wasn't all that inconvenient, but definitely the strangest excuse I've had. Luckily it happened after the invention of camera phones, though crappy flip ones, so I had proof. I was heading back to school after lunch break and a guy who said he was a new student started talking to me. He was acting really weird, so I was all yeah, gotta go. He stole my backpack and refused to give it back. I chased this guy around for like half an hour. Sucker was like 6 feet 6 inches. Hard to catch someone whose legs are so dang long, but eventually he tripped. I got my bag back and made a dash for the school. When I explained to the teacher why I had missed half of class, she accused me of lying and sent me to the principal's office, where I ran into the giant weirdo. being escorted home by his parents because he was high on mushrooms. Seems that holding my bag hostage was just the tip of his iceberg for that day. The next day, he apologized for taking my stuff while he was high and we were friends all through high school. The next day, he apologized for taking my stuff while he was high and we were friends all through high school. That sounds like the beginning of a comedy movie. I once emailed my biology professor that I wouldn't be able to make it to class to take an exam because I was out of pants. As a freshman, I jammed all of my laundry into our dorm's washer. I was walking around in athletic shorts while it was in there. I went and tossed everything in the dryer and set an alarm for an hour later. When I went back, all of my clothes were gone. All my pants. All but 2 or 3 of my shirts. All I had was what I was wearing. It was winter in Wisconsin, and I wasn't going to risk getting some kind of frostbite to take a test. I emailed my professor that all my clothes were stolen, and I wouldn't be able to make it to class. My sister ended up giving me a ride to the nearest department store and helped me buy some new pants, but it was a rough day or two. My dad had to miss a beating because he needed to come and pick me up from school. Why did he need to pick me up? Because my high school was literally on fire. That was a fun phone call. Hey dad, I promise I'm not pranking you and that this is actually happening, but my school is on fire. Can you come and pick me up? I went home during lunch because my mom had something in the crock pot for us to eat. I picked it up to put it in the fridge and the ceramic thing shattered with the food going everywhere. My family was having a chili cook-off. After about 6 hours in the cockpit I hear a loud pop from the kitchen. The glass lid had shattered, but stayed all in place. There was no way for me to get the lid off without causing a bunch of the glass to fall into the chili. Was in Alaska for a few years. I lived in a duplex but the only way to get to my side was up the only flight of stairs. My portion was above the garages. Had a moose hanging out at the bottom of the stairs, just sitting there. Had to be late for work cause there was no way I was about to go down there. Called boss. Boss understood. Showed up about 2 hours later and everything was fine. Was waiting for the bus when someone, douche, in a passing car threw an egg at me. Got me straight in the temple. Had to go home and clean up. Was an hour late. People at work called me egghead that day. Hey Malkovich. Think fast. My son made me late for work, and he was late for school when he announced halfway to his school that he wasn't wearing underwear. He was 6 and had decided that he only needed pants after insisting he was a big boy who didn't need help getting ready in any way. But after riding in the car he realized his uniform pants were not comfortable on his, and I quote, penis and weenie bag. I was often late to school because of a train that ran across the only road I could take. This train never kept a consistent schedule and would oftentimes arrive only to slow to a stop and just sit on the track, blocking the road. I got detention so many times because of that train. I feel you. Only road to get to my road has a train that comes by at unpredictable times. That's not an issue if it's just passing by, but normally it goes forward, backwards, forward, and backwards again for about 15-20 minutes. I arrived at class around 30 minutes late, red-faced and out of breath. The reason why I was late was because I thought it was Saturday. Teacher started laughing at me and told me to sit down. When I sat down, someone kindly let me know that my jumper was on backwards. The city landscaping crew parked their truck chipper at the end of my driveway and piled branches up in front of it, and it took them 45 minutes to clean it up so I could get out of there. At another point in my life while living in an apartment, the bicycle riding party went past the parking lot and I couldn't get out until they had all passed like 30 minutes later. At another point in my life while living in an apartment, the bicycle riding party went past the parking lot and I couldn't get out until they had all passed like 30 minutes later. Sounds like a typical day in the Netherlands. There was a garbage truck on fire in the middle of the highway. Also the time all of the stoplights were out on a highway where traffic is already terrible. I got lost walking to school. Very lost. And was not able to backtrack to figure out how I had gotten lost. I eventually found a payphone, which should help date the event. and called my dad to pick me up. Describing where I was also took longer than I care to admit now. Me. Hey dad, I'm at a grocery store. Dad, why are you at a grocery store? Me. I got lost on the way to school. Could you come pick me up when you have a chance? I'm not really sure where I am. Dad, what grocery store are you at? Me. Kroger. Dad, there isn't a Kroger anywhere near your school. Which Kroger are you at? Me. I don't know. How would I find out? Dad, what road were you walking on? Me. I don't know. I got lost. Dad, Zmagasks. Please ask one of the employees where you are. This continued for another few minutes before I was able to communicate to my father where I was, which ended up being several miles away from my school. This was in high school. This was a route I had walked many times previously. I just started thinking about something or another and started walking on autopilot for evidently quite some time before it dawned on me that I no longer recognized any of my surroundings. LOL, my dad would have thought it was some intricate plan to skip class. I love this so much. Had a student that had his mother leave a message for me that her son couldn't finish his paper since his eyes were swollen shut. I didn't believe it until he arrived to class with help navigating because he had such a bad reaction to poison ivy that he couldn't see. Holy crap, that poor kiddo. Can't imagine the agony he was in. I've had some bad poison ivy, but not like that. He needed medical attention, if not the hospital. Also, as someone who's also very allergic, frick poison ivy. Was leaving a hotel to set up for a trade show. Near the entrance to the parking lot there was a pond and small bridge. Also a large sign saying to yield to the ducks, violators will be prosecuted. The ducks did not want to move off the bridge despite me laying on the horn a few times. Had it on film and showed it to the people who were waiting on me and had a good laugh. The ducks moved when someone coming the other way got out of their vehicle and ran at them. Best username ever. So, it was Labor Day I think, and so work scheduled me at 10:30 AM when I usually had class. But obviously I didn't because school was out for that day. I woke up at 10:30, said in my head oh I don't have school, and turned off my alarm and slept for another hour before waking up and saying oh crap. Luckily it was slow and my partner found it hilarious and my boss didn't care. I just 100% forgot I had work. Even though I woke up for the alarm, I got up, made some food, dicked around for a bit, then hopped on the 364 some FONV. After about 20 minutes of playing I shot up and got ready for work. Luckily I was the opener and it wasn't busy, so I caught minimal flack for it, but I still feel the panic of when I was running to catch the bus. I once left work an hour and a half early without realizing it. I have no idea how it happened. I was supposed to get done at 12:45. Got home and saw it was 11:30 before I realized. Somehow, my boss didn't notice. One time I had to miss a bunch of classes and was late for one because my cat Grizzly Bear maced me. Yes, you read that correctly. When I was living alone in grad school my dad bought me Grizzly Bear mace, in case someone ever tried to break in. Well, one day I left it on the table with no cap and no safety locked. My cat knocked it off. It landed on the trigger and went off on me. It was so painful. I had to email a bunch of my professors explaining why I wasn't going to be in class that day. It took half a day to recover and air out my apartment. Needless to say, they all thought it was hilarious and told everyone. When I got to school in the afternoon, students and teachers alike kept asking me about it and laughing. Why would you take the cap and safety off of bear spray? Was the day after senior skip day. Attendance offices flooded. Pretty much everyone knew the drill. I was sick. My parents called in or here's a note, etc. Except this one girl, whose last name was literally 2 letters off of actually being dumbass. She walks up the attendance desk and when asked for reason for absence tells them, senior skip day. The attendance lady looked dumbfounded and responded, sorry, that isn't a valid reason. I had the opposite happen once, where I had a great excuse and still made it on time. I was hit by a truck before my midterm exam in calculus and still made it in time to take the exam. I was knocked back by about 10 feet, landed on my backpack, very sore, and then the dude, ordered it, just drove off. I had 5 minutes to get to exam and the professor was very strict about no excuses for missing or being late to exams. So I got up and booked it to the exam, even though I had the wind knocked out of me. In retrospect, my excuse was legit, but I was young and didn't realize that no excuse doesn't include attempted vehicular manslaughter. I got sun poisoning on my legs and couldn't walk, crippled for a week. I was working at a restaurant on the weekends, and so when Saturday came I had to tell them I couldn't walk because I was sunburned. They let it be. Next day I tell them I still can't walk and my boss needs a picture as proof. My legs were all scabbed and pee and disgusting. He said to take as much time as I need. Funburned. Doesn't sound fun. My bird ate my homework. Had to redo the assignment because my mother would not let her straight A student show up without the homework completed. I couldn't find my car keys. They were in the ignition of my car. I was pre-starting it because it was 40 below. I have never heard my bosses laugh so loud when I was explaining it. Sorry, my brain stopped at 40 below. As a person who lives in a place that tries to kill humans by cooking them slowly, dang, that's cold. I'm glad your boss found it funny. That I couldn't find the building. Absolutely true. It was my first day of being posted in the ophthalmology department during my rotatory internship in med school. The outpatient department for the ophtha depth had been shifted to a new building a year prior. Everyone knew where it was. I knew, but just couldn't find it. Kept walking in literal circles around the campus and was an hour late. I even used GPS. Phoned 3 friends, asked a buttload of patients and orderlies in the hospital. When I at last made it to the place and told her, my professor asked me not only to get my eyesight checked, but also get a psych eval done. I once was late and I just straight up told my professor it was because McDonald's started all day breakfast and I really wanted an Egg McMuffin. He marked me as on time. I have the worst luck. A random parade at 7:30 AM on a weekday. I still have no idea what it was for, but it was a whole bunch of guys running with flags and a few police and fire trucks following. My dog's poo was hanging from a long piece of hair or string or something from his bum, and he was struggling to get it out. He wouldn't let me get near his bum with a paper towel to help. So there I was running late because I had to chase a dog turd attached to my dog in the front yard of my apartment complex. I dropped my lunch while getting into my car. It exploded all over my clothes and the interior of the car. I had to clean it all up. I was running ahead of schedule, so I decided to stop at Dunkin' on the way. Big mistake. As soon as I pulled around the corner I found myself behind 2 vans full of people. 2 cars then pulled up behind me. There was no way to pull out of the line. I slipped on ice Home Alone style and broke my shoe. I drive a Yaris hatchback. It doesn't take a whole lot of snow to trap me in a parking lot until a plow comes by. During my lunch break one summer afternoon I decided to have a picnic. The sprinklers came on. LOL, after reading this I can say you do have bad luck. Was hungover driving to work. Farted and it smelled so bad I puked all over my steering wheel. Once that floodgate opened, I farted again uncontrollably and crapped myself while still sitting in my driver's seat trying to drive. I tried to explain to my boss I spilled coffee on my pants, but just gave up and told him I sharted and I needed the day off. He understood. I'm on a train and had to clap my hand over my mouth to avoid laughing loudly enough to disturb the other passengers. That is freaking hilarious. Also, I'm sorry for your loss. The pants, I mean. I forgot my shoes. Had a bad habit of driving to work without shoes on. One day I was halfway there and realized they weren't in the car. I did that once during my first year of teaching. I had to call my mom to bring me shoes at work. Embarrassing as heck, but the kids thought it was hilarious. I was in the parking lot at work and it was completely surrounded by angry geese. There were at least 20. Somebody had been feeding them and their car was the same make model as mine and geese remember things, I guess. I kept trying to open the door but the one right by the door would hiss at me and that's how I found out that geese have teeth. The maintenance guy had to rescue me. They absolutely do remember things. I used to walk past a bunch of geese all the time and I guess they got to know me, because I'd walk past them when they had goslings and they'd be cool with me, but someone else walking past them was treated as evil incarnate. Snowed in. We live on a mountain about a mile away from a coastal town in Wales. When it snows here, it melts near enough instantly. Sometimes it sticks for a few days, but the council grit the roads so nothing is stopped. During those periods it stays for a few days. If you drive halfway up to my house, it's like literally entering a different world. Thick foot or two of snow, iced roads. Council refused to grit up because of how steep it is to get up, and tracks skid marks from people who have attempted to get down. This has made me late for work on more than one occasion, and I always get the suspicious eye for it. The winter sucks by me. NY. I'm late without fail a few times a year from weather. Even if the roads are passable, it can take forever just to get the car in decent enough shape to drive. You just sit there freezing your weenie bag off for 10 minutes as you try to defrost everything. My neighbor is simultaneously a lovely old lady and a pernicious brigand. I have been late for work about a dozen times now because she's been lying in wait for me to walk out my front door and ask for assistance with some small task. Bringing her groceries in the house, filling the water softener, taking some cumbersome piece of cookware down off a high shelf, etc. My boss has been kindly enough to accept my inability to say no to helping out a little old lady as an excuse for my tardiness. The bus crashed on my first day of a new job. It was February and we got sudden snow and frost. The trains were cancelled. The bus crashed and I was told by the driver that they were likely cancelling the rest of the day's services. The fun thing was I couldn't phone in because I couldn't get an answer from the office because even the locals couldn't get into work due to weather until like midday. 11 days later the buses and trains restarted and I was able to get to work. Not me, but my sister honestly had to say the dog had eaten her homework. She'd been doing bread mold for her science fair project and the dog got on the table and well, my mom had to call to collaborate, because we all knew how it sounded. ETA. For me, it would be the time the shower door shattered in my hand as I closed it. I spent a fun morning extricating myself from the glass minefield and then cleaning it all up. I missed my flight once because I got distracted by a football game at the airport. I was standing in the opposing team's terminal as well, wearing my jersey and crap talking, having fun with everyone. What felt like 15 minutes was apparently an hour. I turned around and watched my plane leave the airport. You didn't make your flight, but at least you made some friends. Daycare got closed due to wild dogs at the last minute and had to find someone else to watch the kid. I live in the city. I arrived late to a presentation in college because I first thought it was a different class when looking through the door window. I went to the washroom thinking I was too early and spent a good 15 minutes shooting the crap. Then when I got back to the room door I see the rest of my project mates standing by the podium presenting. I opened the door right when my slide came up on the screen and silently take off my backpack and began presenting. Luckily I was pretty good at presentations and did great, but my other mates were quite upset and nobody believed me. I remember my old manager asked me why I was an hour late and I just told her I was really tired and slept, and that made her laugh enough to let it slide. Although the real reason was I ate an edible that I underestimated the strength of and was high for literally like 2 days. I don't frick with edibles, that crap will frick you right back. Got locked out of the car because I wanted to play with a Super Ball. This was when I was a kid and my mom was driving me to grade school. She had to stop by the bank on the way and had me wait in the car in the parking lot. I got bored waiting inside and I found a Super Ball I had in my backpack and got out to play with it. The problem was that I had now locked the keys inside the car with the car running. My mom was furious because she specifically told me to stay in the car and I just wasn't paying attention. We had to call a family friend with a spare key to our house to go and pick it up and bring the spare key to the car. I was like 2 hours late to school and my mom to her job, all because I wanted to play with a Super Ball. Do not taunt Super Happy Fun Ball. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.